The team at The Grout Guy are leading experts in regrouting, waterproofing and tiling services nationwide. Property managers find comfort in their 10-year waterproof warranty on all full shower regrouts. Visit thegroutguy.com.au to rejuvenate your property's tiles and grout now.
We have Deb Gidman back for another podcast episode, which is going to be more around the solo journey that you've had. So, Deb, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, if anyone wants to have a little bit of a listen to Deb's history, go back to the previous podcast where Deb's given us a bit of a history with her career. So she was previously at a very large agency, and then she decided to go out on her own. And Deb, tell us how that's been. How long has it been now?
16 months.
16 months, 3 days. And
yeah.
It's a little bit like that, isn't it?
A little bit like that, yes.
Yeah.
It has been eye-opening. It has been, well, you've had the conversations with me where, there's a lot of situations that I probably didn't think about. I was a bit of a wing it and see what happens, and literally opened a trust account, got a name, did my formal formalities that I needed to do, and then off I went. And I kind of thought that, I'm so experienced and I'm a licensed agent. People are going to flock to me. Obviously, they want me to manage their property.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? And it hasn't actually been like that. So, but it's there are so many great people in the industry that you can speak with, so many podcasts you can listen to, so many conversations that you can have. And what I'm slowly starting to realize, 16 months in, is that I'm not comparing myself to anyone else. I'm in my lane, doing my thing, and I'm actually pretty happy. So there are people that have done, massively better than me, and people that probably haven't done as well as me. So we're all on our own journey. And as long as I'm doing my thing and doing it to the best of my ability, I'm happy. So yeah, it's been eye-opening.
And in a way, 16 months, actually, I know it might feel slow at times, but it sort of has gone quite quick.
I know.
If you look back on it.
It has. It's flown by. It's flown by. Yeah. The first 12 months, probably the goals that I set, I wasn't there. Maybe I was unrealistic. I don't know. But this year, things are starting to sort of, roll, like the ball is rolling, and things are starting to fall in place, and I'm getting more confident in everything. So yeah, this year will be better.
Yeah, excellent. So we previously have spoken about larger agencies and the reasons why clients would go to larger agencies and how they can still create a personal service. So being on your own, obviously you are offering a very personal service, maybe sometimes quite an emotional service at times as well. But I also I find this space quite interesting because I remember doing a webinar for people that had under 100 properties, and I was doing a bit of a growth webinar just to sort of help with the motivation. And there was quite a few people from Instagram particularly that messaged me and said, I'd love to come on the webinar. And I said to them, have you got under 100 properties? Because we're perceived to have, they were looking very professional. Yeah. Their socials was up to date. They looked like they were a big agency. And I was shocked when they messaged me and said, I've only got 10 or I've only got 20. And I was thinking to myself, it's such a perception, marketing. No one needs to know how many properties you have. But also what's interesting is that sometimes the solo offices want to look bigger, but we don't embrace the exclusivity of having the small office. So what's your thoughts when it comes to client contact? Are you that type of person that embraces and takes advantage and says, yes, I only manage this number of properties? Or do you want to look bigger because it could be perceived as more professional?
It's a great question, Ash, because funnily, I've done a lot of calls, a lot of BDM calls, and I've actually played with both sides of that because I don't know what people want. I don't know. So I always take every client as they've not got. I do ask the question, have you got other investments? Then it's a slightly different conversation. But most of them don't have any idea of being an investment landlord. They may look online and the questions are always, how many properties does your property manager manage? And all of those sort of
I hate that question.
they're all the same. Yeah. And so sometimes I I think if I say to them, I've only got 10 properties, what does that look like? Does that look like I'm not very good at what I do? So I don't ever say how many properties I've got. I just say I manage a smaller amount so that I can offer a personalized service. So I try not to get into numbers. Sometimes they do ask me and I will say. And I did have somebody say to me the other day, is it just you? And I was on the spot. And I said, yes, it is actually. And he said, well, what do you do when you go on holiday?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I do actually have things in place. So I have been on holiday whilst I've been working, and I do 2 hours of work on my laptop in the morning. So you can work from anywhere, as we know. I can take calls from anywhere. And if there was any out of office stuff that had to be done, there are people that I can call on to help me. There are outsourcing companies, that can do things like that. But there are also colleagues that I work with. In fact, somebody reached out to me just the other day. She was away. Could you help me out with this appointment? And, I'm more than happy to do that. So I think the smaller businesses do rely on each other. But I generally try not to get sucked into how many properties do you manage. Because I think, like you say, perception is massive. So if they think because I think when people call me, they don't think it's just me. They quite often say, could you manage to get one of your reps out to me? Or do you think you can get a property manager out to me?
What do you say when they ask you that?
I said, I'll come.
Okay, yes, yeah.
I'll come, And I did an appraisal at 7:00 the other night on a property management property, which probably wouldn't generally happen in property management. But they'd already moved away from their investment property and they were going to be down. I couldn't make the day that they wanted, so I went at 7:00. But yeah, I think I do want to put the perception out there that I'm bigger than what I am. But it's funny because I was thinking about it on the way up here, Ash. Being in the industry, if I said to you, I'm a licensed agent, I can manage your property, or you can have a registered property manager, which one would you choose? Yeah. But it only means something to us in the industry. It doesn't mean anything to that investor that's calling from interstate. He doesn't understand the difference in that.
And they're all different over East anyway, the licensed, or what they call licensed agents and certificates. It's all weird. So it doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't mean anything. So I'm thinking, you're getting a licensed agent, and it doesn't mean anything. So I suppose along my journey, I'm thinking about the language. I'm thinking about how I communicate, how I convey. I want to keep that. I'm a boutique agency. That I think that's I still believe in that. If I was going to look for a person to manage my property, I would like a boutique agency. The buck stops with me. I know everything. I'm doing everything. You run the risk at an agency that somebody may leave, changeover of staff, or things, getting missed from department to department. So I do believe in it, but I don't know how much value that holds for an Eastern State investor.
Well, it would only hold value if it's been a pain point for them where they did have a change, and then they'll be like, you know what, we can't deal with these larger style agencies. We're going to go for an individual. So, I mean, a few things that come to mind. The first, if we talk a little bit about the number of properties that you manage, you could, and I don't know how this would sound, but you could potentially sort of not answer that question directly, but just say, listen, I've got capacity for 60 more properties on my portfolio. So I've got plenty of time. So I like talking about capacity because I think that's really important. And I encourage landlords to actually ask a potential property manager or BDM, what capacity does your team have? Because if they've only got capacity, well, first of all, it will probably throw them with a question. But like in my team, I've got capacity, I think, for 130 more properties in our team with existing labor. So to me, that sounds like there is time available to take on more clients as opposed to reflecting on the amount of properties we've got.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would come across.
No, I like that capacity because, you're flipping it then saying, I've got time. Yeah.
The other thing with the how many properties do you manage? And the reason why I hate this question is because my team do manage a high amount of properties. So just by asking that question doesn't come across great. And I did do a little video once on better alternative questions an investor could ask. But for me, what's more important is how long they've been on your team for. Are they happy? Do you have a happy team? Because I might have a team member managing 180 properties and they've been with me for 10 years. They're very happy. So, but would I expect a new person coming into the office and looking after 180 from day one? Probably not. But it's something that grows, develops, becomes easier the longer you look after clients.
Yeah, well, that's it. You build relationships with people, you know them, like people that are in portfolios for long periods of time. I mean, I had somebody that was on 180. She'd finished her work by 11 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
She was the one standing up going, how can I help? Because she'd built such trust and rapport and relationships with those people that she wouldn't even have to phone. She'd just send an email going, I need to send a plumber.
Yeah.
That was it.
Or I've sent the plumber. Yeah,
or I've sent a plumber. We know how much a maintenance, if you haven't got trust, it's a great, in fact, we should do this. We should work out on a brand new PM managing a brand new property, how long does a maintenance task take versus an experienced PM with a portfolio where there's trust on how long it takes? I would say it would differ massively. Yeah. And so when you can deal with those things in a quick, efficient manner, and you're not having to send an email, then phone call, then wait for the return, then send a quote, then get approval for the quote, then send that plumbing thing could have been done within the hour. Mm. So that, if you've got 180 properties where you're having to do that massive rigmarole, it's not going to work. Whereas if you've got 180 and you've got the rapport and the trust.
And so making sure that when we get asked that question as property managers, we're actually just not giving that client the number. Yeah. Make sure you explain that to them and justify and use that as an opportunity to educate the client.
Why are you asking that question? They're asking it because it's been on when they've Googled what questions to ask.
I'm sure PK on his investor course has 10 questions to ask. I actually had a joke with a client once and he started going through the questions and it must have been my third call for the day of the same questions. And I actually had a joke and said to this guy, listen, I'm going to have a guess at what your next question is. And I guessed it. And he was like, how did you know? I was like, because I've answered these questions already 3 times today. And it's interesting because they ask the questions, but I don't even know if they know what the correct answer is.
No.
Do they?
No. And this is when I come back to so many of these investors are first time. They're doing their best. They're educating themselves as much as they can. They go online, they Google what questions should we ask. But you're absolutely right. They don't know what. So what if we said I manage 300? Yeah. What does that mean? Like,
I would say that you're very efficient, and how awesome is it that you are
managing 300?
Yeah,
come and work for me.
Absolutely, that's right. I see good efficiencies in that. And if someone managed 300 properties, I would probably be curious at how long they were in that role for, because if they were only in that role for a couple of months, like if I was an investor, I'd be like, I'd question management. Is that doable? I would, are they happy? But if someone's been in the business long term, managing that number of properties, they must be happy.
Happy, absolutely.
And being rewarded accordingly.
That's a great question, actually.
Yeah, really important, to educate your clients. And you can educate your clients on that, yes, by answering it when they call you, but even putting it on your socials. And like I did ages ago now, which was better alternative questions to ask than how many properties your property manager looks after. Yeah. So get it all out on the socials.
Yeah. This just sprang to mind and I just wanted to quickly raise it with you. We know the software that I'm using have introduced this new sort of lead component. And when you're creating your listing kit, it surfaces data from your software, your arrears, your response time to emails, all of these important things to actually show your points of difference rather than just going, we all manage 120 properties. We do, you know what I mean? Because I'd say we're probably all saying the same thing, really. So I thought that was a great sort of like thing that, they're actually going to surface data and say we have 0% arrears. We have a response time of 4 hours, 26 minutes. We, actual information that landlords might get excited about because, it's real live data.
Yeah, like we manage 200 properties and we do it pretty goddamn well, according to our stats.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. I like that. Personal service with what you're doing. So obviously you have time to offer a very personal service. You call them up when they get their counsellor rates, or email when they get their counsellor rates to find out how they want them paid. What other services would you be offering that maybe a larger agency couldn't, and therefore use it as a bit of point of difference?
Mopping floors.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, we all know the builders clean on new properties.
Well, just curiously, why do you mop the floors? Why would you not just tell the owner, hey, it needs a spring clean and it's $150?
Because I can just pop down and do it. Again, just building that rapport and saying to him, I mean, I don't let it go unnoticed.
Yeah.
I say to him, look, it didn't actually warrant a big clean, but it did warrant, the bench tops being wiped and the mop. And I've just whizzed down and done that myself. Because if somebody did that for me, I would feel like they're looking after me. I would feel like they were giving good service. So that's the reason that I'm doing it. And I'm just trying to give great service in order to build my rent roll, because I feel like my customers are coming from referrals now. They're starting to speak to other investors. And so that is, we've all got our growth plans. I'm not a cold caller. It's never going to be something that I do. I thought I'd try it. I hate it. So I have to think of other avenues. And this is one of mine, is giving great service to my current customer base in order to get referrals.
I mean, in fairness, I'd probably mop a floor versus doing a cold call any day as well. Exactly so right. I get that mentality. I'm going to throw a question which will be a bit of a curveball, and I reckon there'll be people listening that will have this thought. And it would be, Deb, if you are mopping floors, where does that line, that boundary stop? Are they going to continue to expect more from you?
And again, it's a great question, and I'm fully aware that I'm over servicing my clients at the moment, and I would actually be having a go at the team, my larger team, if they were doing what I'm doing. Yeah. The ones that want to order something from Good Guys and then arrange to be at the property while the oven's being delivered. We don't have time for that. That's what I would be saying to my team if I was that. But my feeling is that if I bed this client in and I build this relationship at the start, I'm going to have longevity with this client. They're going to stay, but they're also not going to question. Like I say, like the lady that had built the rapport with them, they're not going to question. They're going to make my job easier. So I'm quite happy to do it at the beginning. I might be making a rod for my own back. It might be that this client expects me to go and do a vacate clean in between tenancies.
And we'll do another podcast and talk about that when that happens.
Yeah. I'm not doing vacate cleans.
No.
Unless you want to pay me $1,000. I'm definitely in the wrong industry. I need to be a cleaner. But for me and for now, it's the decision I've made.
Interesting, because in the previous podcast, we were talking about offering that personal service and saying if you are a property manager in a large team, sometimes asking yourself that question of, if I was on my own, would I do it any differently? And in turn, with you, I would say, if you were in a bigger team, would you do the same?
Yeah.
It's same, but different.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
No. But no, But
at the moment, that's that point of difference that you need to use.
Yeah.
And I think points of differences do change as you grow.
I think so.
And you don't have to have one point of difference that lasts you forever. There'll be a point of difference for 0 to 50, a point of difference for 50 to 100, a point of difference from 500. So making sure people know that that's very fluid, and you just take advantage of whatever stage you are at.
Yeah. Because I'm speaking with all my owners at the moment going, it's me for everything. It's not always going to be me for everything. No. It's not. No. But I'm happy to sell that now, because it is. Yeah. And then when I do get bigger and bring somebody else on, we just need to make sure that the standards that I've set are maintained.
Yeah. Amazing. Last question. Benefits of being a solo operator that you use for your clients.
The flexibility for me to do whatever. So sometimes they will call me on a Sunday morning and I will take the call because I've got skin in the game. It's my saying. What I put in, I get out. So I am very hands-on with my clients, and I do communicate probably more than, like I say, with the bigger team, I always said to them, we finish at 5. You know, we're not getting paid to do after hours. So we put things in place so that the PMs weren't doing what I'm doing. But I'm happy to do it for now.
The one thing that I would encourage and this might sound a little bit, what's the word, like controversial, but I know that for me, being in a larger agency, if I have a client that I recognize is not suited for a larger agency, I have no problems referring them to someone like yourself, which I've done, or someone that is that smaller team, because the way that I see it is that I would rather a client go to someone that I know and trust, as opposed to going to the open market and just picking someone out and not know their service. And vice versa, there will be times where someone is in a smaller office and they might have a more demanding client, and they actually might be better off being referred to a larger agency where they don't have to worry about that. So I think there's so many different types of clients, recognizing and not being afraid to refer people on if you think that there is another setup. I mean, I'm not referring, someone to a competitor of mine as such, but I wouldn't see a smaller agency being a competitor because they are offering a completely different service.
Absolutely. There's room for everybody. And I think one of the things that you have really brought to the forefront is this, collaboration, not competition. I love to use that. We're all in this together, and if a small, because I will go away to Bali for 2 weeks.
Do you tell your clients that you do that?
I didn't last time. I only had a few clients. I'm going to Thailand in January for 2 weeks, so I've already teed up with another colleague of mine that if there's anything on the ground, but no, I don't think I will need to tell my clients, because I will still answer the phone calls and I will still answer the emails. I will still be working because it's my business, and I'm happy to do that. 2 hours in the morning while I'm sat having a cup of coffee is no skin off my back. So this should be seamless to them. So I probably wouldn't tell them I'm away.
I get that question asked a little bit. I don't personally like auto replies on emails. I would rather just answer it and have someone monitoring my emails and responding, as opposed to making a big drama out of it.
You have a bigger team, as opposed to small.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's always lovely chatting, Deb. Thank you for coming on, and I really do enjoy your growth and your journey, and it is a journey, and I think that you have got past that destination where you're like, I want to be at this point. Don't worry about that destination. It's very much a process and a journey, and you're doing a wonderful job. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Ash.
Property Assist understand that business owners are rapidly expanding their rental portfolios, and property managers simply can't handle everything on their own. Property Assist are now offering outsourcing in Western Australia, New South Wales, South Australia and Queensland, and can help your team with all their ingoing reports, outgoing final bond inspections, routine inspections, 360 tours, home opens and inventory reports. Find them on your socials.